Welcome to the Dylan Hildreth Show. I am Dylan Hildreth, and today I'm going to be booking the return of the boss, Sasha Banks, to WWE. This is just how I would do it. Probably not the way it's going to happen because I am the smartest person on the universe. And if you ask me, I will tell you, I am the smartest man in the universe. Anyway, make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get into business. So, first thing I would do in the return of Sasha Banks and Naomi is I would hype up Naomi coming back to SmackDown. Naomi then comes out, cuts a seething promo on Sasha Banks, calling her manipulative, a cult-esque type leader, and that she's very sorry for letting down the WWE universe, drawing massive heat, just like the WWE drew heat when they pretty much said that they let everybody down, including the WWE universe and the whole 9 yards. And the scathing promos continue to the next week, but then she said how grateful she is for the WWE letting her come back. She goes on to join the Bloodline and becomes the women's champion, becoming a real major heel. And then Naomi comes on, goes on again about Banks being an evil, sadistic cult leader, and that she now, winning the championship, she feels free from Sasha Banks and her control and anyone else who tries to control her, as she's with the Bloodline. Naomi is then interrupted by the boss, Sasha Banks, jumping the barricade, attacking from behind. Banks is quickly swarmed by security and police officers, and they haul her away to jail, since she is technically, in kayfabe, a fan. So then big old Vinnie Mac gets involved. And yes, this is with everything that's happened with him. I don't want to say this comes into play, but it sort of does. You'll see. Vince comes out next week on SmackDown and says that Sasha Banks has been fired and she will be charged to the fullest extent of the law for trespassing and assault. And that's the end of that. The Royal Rumble comes in the 30th entrant. In the Royal Rumble, sirens start blaring, and in comes the prototypical police paddy wagon that you see in cartoons and TV shows and all that, and it's backing in at the corner of the stage. And then all of a sudden, Banks's music hits, and she emerges from the paddy wagon and then goes on to win the Royal Rumble. Now, Vince comes out that following SmackDown, and he says Banks is still not under contract with the WWE, and that the Royal Rumble win is null and void, and Sasha Banks will not be going to WrestleMania. Vince is then interrupted by the CEO and chairwoman of WWE. And for the first time in her life, she legitimately pulls rank on Vinnie Mac and says that Sasha Banks has been signed to a deal for a lot of money and a lot of years, and the Royal Rumble win is legitimate, and Sasha Banks will be going to WrestleMania. Banks comes out after Stephanie and announces the fairly obvious: we're getting Banks and Naomi at WrestleMania for the main event of night one. So, Banks, she cuts a promo saying that she was never a cult leader. We were in that walkout together. I didn't make her do anything. And she's going to shut up Naomi once and for all for her lies. And then the WWE, as they are prone to do, organizes a contract signing the night before WrestleMania. Naomi refuses, saying that Banks is unsafe and it is too close to WrestleMania, and she does not want to risk Banks jumping her and getting hurt. So Naomi only agrees if Banks is detained. Banks trying to get the contract signing because, we always got to sign a contract in the middle of a wrestling ring because nothing goes wrong there. Banks, trying to get the contract signed, reluctantly agrees. Banks' hands are cuffed together as she comes out, signs the contract. Naomi comes out, signs the contract, and then beats the almighty hell out of Sasha Banks, beating her all around the ring to the point where it's almost uncomfortable. And then Naomi finally ends the beating with sticking Banks' hands in between the ring post and the steps, smashing Banks' hands into the steps. And that is how we sign off on the go home show of SmackDown. And then the night comes. At WrestleMania, Banks makes her way to the ring, both of her hands noticeably heavily taped. And instead of the stare down that they have been apt to do, Banks does not wait. Immediately goes for Lutha's press style and starts trying to bash down on Naomi. Pain's too severe. Banks instantly jumps off, grabbing her hands in severe pain. Naomi capitalizes, starts stomping Banks' hands, spreading the fingers, joint manipulation, the whole 9 yards. Naomi tries to unwrap the tape off her hands by taking the sleeves off that is on Sasha's ring gear. Banks is able to turn the tide, make the comeback, tries to go for the bank statement, but cannot do it. Her hands are in too much pain to be able to lock the fingers together. And then Banks, with the insanely high ring IQ that she's known for, she takes the ring gear from her sleeve, wraps it around, bites down on it, and gets the modified bank statement that way. Naomi scrambling, trying to find a way out, cannot. Taps out. It is over. Banks gets her first singles win at WrestleMania in her career. And that is how I would book Sasha Banks and Naomi's return to the WWE. Now, how does this situation actually turn out? Who knows? I don't think Banks is going to end up in AEW. I think she maybe does some sort of part-time deal with Impact. That way she can go to Hollywood. Something along those lines. Naomi, I think she's going to be back at the WWE. I don't see her going off to AEW, Impact. She's got too many ties there. From my understanding, she does not have a lot of heat backstage. And so I think we're going to end up with Naomi coming back to WWE, Sasha Banks. I think Hollywood is her biggest thing right now. We may see her back in WWE. That's what I hope the outcome is, because Sasha is very good. She is the best women's wrestler in WWE history, without a doubt. And this is something along the lines I would go with to bring them both back and get them both over. Because at the end of the day, that is what bookers and promoters are trying to do, is to try to get as many people over as possible and then keep them over. So that is my fantasy booking for Banks and Naomi. Comment down below. What would you do differently? How would you do it differently, and why? And once again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share it with everybody you know. We'll see you next time on The Dylan Hilder Show.